Hello everybody, it's Sarah and today's video is going to be all about the unfinished series on my bookshelf. I honestly used to be a person who started a series and then finished it right away, but for some reason that doesn't work anymore. I have way too many unfinished series on my bookshelves, and that's only counting the series that I still have here on my bookshelves that I have not unhauled yet to my mom's place, which are kind of like half unhauled books. They are books that I don't have space for here, but that I am not ready to let go yet, and so they're at my mom's place. And there are quite a few other unfinished series there. But anyway, today's video is all about the 37. I actually have 37 unread books. I hope I didn't count incorrectly, but 37 unread series on my bookshelf here in my flat. Let's get into it because this will take quite some time. I will try to not to say too much about each series because this will take long enough as it is, but I do have 5 categories. One is the unfinished series that I have a reason for not finishing, namely because all of the books have not been published yet, but I am caught up with the series, so I have read the latest published book. Then I have all the books where I want to finish the series, like I did not DNF the series yet, but I just have too many other books that I want to read at the moment, so there is no way to know in the foreseeable future if I will finish those series. Then the third one is the series that I have actually already decided to DNF, but I still own some of the future books in those series, and I still kind of want to read those future books and then decide after I read them whether or not to DNF the series. Then are the series that I DNF'd, and lastly, of course, I have the series that are at the front of the I want to get to them now, please let me finish them pile. And one of the reasons why I'm making this video is also so I can rewatch it 1 year down the line and see how many of the series I have finished this year. I am going to try to finish maybe 5 of the series. I think 5 sounds good. And let's see if I manage that 1 year down the line. But anyway, let me get started with the series that I am caught up on. The first series is The Kingkiller Chronicles by Patrick Rothfuss. I highly recommend the series, one of my favorite series of all time, although I have no idea when we'll get the third book. The second series is Skyward by Brandon Sanderson, which has only been started this past November. The second book is, I think, the book that's the next planned to be published by Brandon Sanderson, and I absolutely loved the start to the series and I can't wait for the next one. Also by Brandon Sanderson, the Wex and Wayne series, which is the second era in the Mistborn universe. And I think I might actually prefer it to the original Mistborn trilogy. The last book in this category by Brandon Sanderson is the Stormlight Archive series, which of course is like one of my favorite series of all time. I think it's my favorite series by Brandon Sanderson in general, and I'm so excited that we'll get 10 books in this series. It's like just really exciting, honestly. Then I think this series is called The Legacy of Orisha by Tomi Adeyemi. The first book was Children of Blood and Bone. I have a review for this book. By the way, if I have any reviews for any of the books that I just talked about, I will leave them linked down below. So if you're interested in any of the books, you can go and look there if I have any. And actually I was a lot more positive in the review than I feel about this book now. So this is a series where I do plan on reading the second book, and after that I will decide whether or not to DNF the series. Another series that was only started this year is Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Ghnan. I hope I pronounced that correctly. I really enjoyed this book, and with this one I am definitely looking forward to reading the second one. A series that at this point I think we can just count as finished because I don't think we'll ever get the next book in the series is The Song of Ice and Fire by George R. R. Martin. I honestly decided that before the next season in the TV show comes out, I will probably finally catch up with the TV show and watch the TV show after all, because I actually wanted to like wait until the series was finished, but I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon, if ever, honestly. And the last of my caught up with series is The Nevernight Chronicles by Jay Kristoff. I am so excited for the third book. I loved the first 2 books. I read them 2017, I think, And yeah, I can't wait. I still have almost 30 books left of series that I haven't finished, so let me quickly continue on with the series that I DNF'd. The first 3 books are all by Kerry Arthur. They are the Nikki and Michael series, the Ripple Creek duology, as well as the Myth and Magic duology. Actually, with those 2 duologies, both of the second books follow different characters and they're like completely different stories, so that's one of the reasons why I never really picked up the second books. And here I read the first 3 books and it's just been such a long time since I read them that I have like no interest at all in picking up the 4th book. The next series, I don't know what it's called, but it's the series that Howl's Moving Castle is a part of, and the series is by Diana Wynne Jones. I never really intended on finishing the whole series. I only read Howl's Moving Castle because the movie is one of my favorite movies of all time and definitely my favorite Studio Ghibli film, so I kind of really was interested in reading the book, but I way preferred the movie, so I don't intend on ever finishing the series. Next is a book that I very much disliked when I read it, and that is the Magnus Chase series by Rick Riordan. I just didn't think that he did as well of a job with the Norse gods and the Norse mythology as he did with the Greek mythology. And also I really hate the depiction of Loki in this book. And if you know anything about me, you might know that I'm very picky when it comes to my Lokis in pop culture and in books, because he is one of my favorite gods of all time, if not my favorite god, and for some reason no one aside from Joanne M. Harris can portray him correctly. So I'm not interested in ever finishing the series. Okay, next are the series that I actually already decided to DNF, but I still have a few of the books in the series on my shelves, so I plan on at least finishing those books, and maybe I like them enough that I carry on with those series after all. First, I have the Dark Angel series by Kerry Arthur. I read the first book in the series, I own the second book, and it's a quick and easy read, so I don't really see why I would unhaul the book if I can just like read it in 2 days. I'll just have to get around to it. Then I have the Eragon series. When I first read the series, I really didn't like the second book, which is why I never continued on, even though I did buy the third book. But I think I might actually like the second book a lot more now, so I do want to continue on at least to the third book, although I've heard a few not so good things about the 4th book. And then, although I know that it's not actually like a whole huge series, it's the Discworld by Terry Pratchett. I know that it's like different series following different characters, but I still don't intend on reading any other books aside from Mort, which I own, which is the first one in like the Death series. Because I read Color of Magic, I enjoyed it, but ultimately it wasn't really for me. So this is me from the future jumping in a bit, because actually while editing the video I noticed that I completely forgot about all the series that I said I would finish at some point, but that just aren't first priority right now. And so let me just quickly share them as well. First, I'm not really sure what this series is called. I think it's the Westria series by Diana L. Paxson. And I read this book ages ago. I got the whole series as a present from a friend of my mom, secondhand, because she didn't want it anymore. And yeah, I enjoyed the first book. I have the whole series, and so I just have to finish it. Then second, I'm not really sure if this counts as series, but it's like the Robert Langdon novels series by Dan Brown. Most of you will know Da Vinci Code from this series. All of the books of course work as standalones, but they're also kind of interconnected. And I really enjoyed the first 2 books, so I want to read the others at some point as well. Then I have The Wrath and the Dawn duology by Renee Ahdieh. I did enjoy this book. It wasn't like one of the most memorable books I ever read, but I do still think that I want to pick up The Rose and the Dagger at some point, if there ever comes a time when there are no other books that I want to read more. Then next I have The Trials of Apollo by Rick Riordan. I did really enjoy this book when I first read it, but again, it's just not first priority for me right now, mostly because at the moment I don't really feel middle grade and YA a lot, unless it's high fantasy, and even then it's just kind of like always do I really want to read this or do I not? And the last two series I have are both by Juliet Marillet, and they are the Shadowfell trilogy as well as the Wildwood duology. The Wildwood duology is similar to the Seven Waters series by Juliet Marillet, as in you follow two sisters and both of the books have a different main character. Like a different one of the sisters is the main character, and the stories are not really interconnected, just a little bit. And for the Shadowfell trilogy, I read this book when it first came out and I can remember absolutely nothing, but I do remember that I really enjoyed it. And Juliet Marillet is definitely one of my favorite authors, even though I have not read anything by her in a really long time. So I do want to read this whole trilogy, like reread the first book and then continue on with the second and third. And now on to Past Me again. Okay, so now we're finally with the series that I do definitely intend on finishing. First is the Draconis Memoria series by Anthony Ryan. I picked this book up, I think, around a year ago without knowing anything about it, and I highly enjoyed reading it, even though I was in the middle of a huge reading slump, my hugest reading slump yet. So I think I definitely have to finish this series. Then I have the Wheel of Time series by Robert Jordan. This will be a year-long reading project because they're not really books that I can binge read. So I'm just like reading it one at a time, one after the other, and maybe like 3 years. Give me 3 years to finish all of the 14 books. I have only read the first 2 so far. Then I have a series that I only picked up a few months ago, and that is The Invisible Library by Genevieve Cogman. I accidentally picked up the 5th book because it said Librarian Spy on the back, okay? And then I picked up the first book. I already own the second book and they're really quick and easy reads. So I don't doubt I'll be done with them soon. Okay, next is this series. Yes, I have not read the 6th and 7th book in the Harry Potter series. I won't go further into it because that's a whole long story on why I never finished it. But I do intend on finishing them, okay? Then is a series that I don't know if I can say I will hate finish the series, because I did actually mostly enjoy reading the books, but the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J Maas. I just want to finish the series because at this point there's only 2 books left. Another series that's just way too embarrassing that I haven't read it, even though I read mostly high fantasy, is the Lord of the Rings series by J.R.R. Tolkien. I'm half done. I will get to it. It's a plan. Okay, then I have the Books of Pelennor series by Alison Croggon. I have read the first 2 books in that series and then I have not read them for a very long time, so now I have reread the first book. I still have to reread the second book, and then I can finally continue on with the 3rd and the 4th book. Then I also have 2 series by Laurell K. Hamilton, both the Mary Chantry series and the Anita Blake series. I'm currently in the middle of kind of like rereading, catching up with the Anita Blake series. And I only noticed a few days ago that there was a new book in the Mary Chantry series, so I do intend on reading that as well. Then 2 books where I don't even know how many books there are in each series are kind of the Loki series and the Runemark series by Joanne M. Harris. They are kind of connected, kind of not connected. Like, you don't have to read the Gospel of Loki to read the Runemarks and vice versa, but I really enjoyed the Gospel of Loki. It's one of my favorite books of all time. Runemarks was really enjoyable as well, so I definitely want to continue on with the second books that I have, and I don't think there are any more published at the moment. Then I also have 2 series by Brandon Sanderson. I have the Reckoners novels as well as the Alcatraz series. Both are series with books that are like really short and quick and easy to read because they're YA and middle grade books. So it should be quite easy to read them. I have 3 books left in the Alcatraz series and the last book left in the Reckoner series. By the way, I'm not putting Warbreaker and Elantris into this video because at this point they're still like mostly standalones and I don't really see them as part of any bigger series. And lastly is the series that I am highly embarrassed that I have not caught up with the series, especially since the last book is going to be published, I think, in March. And that is the Other series by Anne Bishop. I have not read the latest published book by my favorite author. How dare I? That tells you how bad of a reading slump I had, okay? I still have to read Lake Silence. It's actually not like really a part of the other series because the other series had its conclusion in the 5th book, but it's like a spin-off continuation-ish following a different character. So I do intend on getting to it very soon, but because of my book buying ban, I'm only allowed to buy it once I have read 2 books, and that will be before March though. I will have read it before the new book comes out, I promise. Anyway, that was it for this week's video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Tell me in the comments down below if you have finished any of the series that I talked about, if they're worth finishing, and also if you're struggling with some of the series as I am. If you enjoyed this video, please maybe think about giving me a thumbs up and maybe subscribing. And as always, all the links to my social media are in the description box down below, so go and check those out. And I hope I'll see you soon. Bye!